Transportation Commission meeting for October 8th, 2025 to order. Shiloh, if you please read the instructions for us, please.
Welcome to our virtual meeting. We are going to cover a few basic items before beginning. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. To members and city staff, members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. Use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak or to ask questions. Staff, click raise hand when you are asked a question. The chair will do their best to call on committee members in the order in which hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the commission, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Shiloh. If you could please move Will Okovich, that's Alder Okovich. He's a member of TC, from attendees over to panelists, please. Thank you. Aiden, if you'd call a roll.
Sure. William Okovich.
Present, and thank you, Ed.
Sean O'Brien.
Present.
Dina Nina Martinez Rutherford did say she was stuck in an update, so she should be joining soon.
Okay.
Barbara Harrington McKinney. Dan Kovich.
Here.
Denise Jess.
She might be in one of those updates too. I didn't hear from her.
Pepe Barros.
Here.
Chris McCahill.
Here.
Bill Bremer.
Can't hear you, Bill. Huh. I saw your lips move, but I didn't hear you. Can you say something again? Yeah, your audio must not be working. I can't hear him. Can anybody else hear him?
No.
You might have to sign out and sign back in again, Bill. That worked for me last time. I had issues with my video.
Next, we have Kaylee Jameson.
Here.
And Lynn Olson.
Present.
And then Robbie Weber and Harold Kleems are excused tonight.
Kaylee and Lynn, it looks like at this point you should be able to make motions and vote. We'll keep our eye on that because Harold might join later, but it depends on whether Alder Harrington McKinney and Alder Martinez Rutherford are able to join as well. So we'll keep our eye on that if we have any issues with that.
I have arrived, Anne. So sorry.
Oh, you are there. Thanks, Alder. No, there was an update today, and a lot of people were having trouble getting in. So, yeah, not an issue. Thanks, Alder. Okay. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting. If so, would somebody make a motion, please? Alder Martinez Rutherford.
Move approval for the minutes.
Alder O'Brien.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no hands, I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no or abstain. So please raise your hand.
I will abstain since I wasn't here for the last meeting.
Okay, Pepe and Bill. Bill, your hand is up. Oh, okay. Alder Okovich?
I will also abstain because I was not here for the last meeting.
Okay, so Pepe Barros and Alder Okovich wish to abstain? Okay, thanks everybody. we have anybody registered to speak under item 1? I know we had written comments under item 1. Do we have anybody registered to speak?
No, we do not.
Do we have, I don't see anybody in the queue. Do we have anybody registered to speak this evening at all?
Nope.
Okay, thanks. We'll kind of watch that in case we do. Are there any disclosures or recusals this evening? Oh, I see Denise joined. I don't see Alder Harrington McKinney. Any disclosures or recusals this evening? Okay, seeing none. Let's move on to item 2, which is adopting the updated ADA transition plan. Rebecca.
Hello, commissioners. My name is Rebecca Hoyt. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm the Disability Rights and Services Specialist. I'm also the designated ADA coordinator for the City of Madison. I am a fair-skinned person with brown and silver curly hair, green eyes, and I wear glasses with tinted lenses. And I'm joined tonight by our amazing Disability Rights and Services intern, who, once the plan is approved, will be helping with the implementation. So I'd love to give Amelia an opportunity to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Amelia. My pronouns are she, her, hers. As Rebecca said, I'm one of her fall interns, and I'm a senior at UW-Madison, majoring in gender and women's studies and getting a certificate in disability rights and services, amongst a couple other things. So nice to be here.
Welcome, thanks.
Thank you. And so we're really excited. The time has come for the commission to hopefully support the approval of our ADA transition plan that was introduced by Common Council on the 16th of September and referred to you all. It's also being referred to our Public Works Board and the Disability Rights Commission. I know that I visited to chat with you all about the plan in the past, so I have a very brief sort of refresher focusing on the public right-of-way portion of the plan, and then I'll share with you anything that has changed since last time I talked with you all and share a little bit about the public comments that we received. So we'll go ahead and share my screen. And if my screen share is not accessible, I believe the materials are linked to your agenda.
We can see it, yep.
Great. So for the public right-of-way portion of the plan, we did partner with Access to Independence, which is a local disability-led organization that helped us in terms of being like a consultant for public right-of-way and really focused to make sure that we had a community-informed perspective on this portion of the plan. And so as just a refresh, the transition plan in the 1990s, this was required for all cities Madison size and larger. And we have maintained compliance with that plan, but some of the elements of the initial plan have become decentralized over time. And of course, Madison has changed and grown quite a lot since the 90s, and so has our disability community. The compliance requirements have also changed since the initial plan, and I'll talk a little bit more about the updated PROAG requirements in a moment. But this year marks the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and so it's timely that we take a citywide approach of updating our ADA transition plan to make sure that not only are we legally compliant, but that as a city, our programs and facilities are accessible and usable for people with disabilities. And so just very briefly, other portion of the public programs We are on track to meet those requirements. The to 2040. Some of the access barriers need further evaluation to determine how we can be most cost effective as well as most effective in removing the access barriers. And so those will be added as a plan addendum by the end of 2030. And then our parks and recreations facilities sort of update on a cycle, depending whether it's a playground or parking lots, things like that. And so that cycle will complete by the end of 2055. The plan also includes a review of employment policies and practices, and we were fortunate to find that we are already compliant in terms of our employment processes at the city. So focusing more on the public right-of-way section of the plan, the city complies with the design standards included in the 2024 PROAG, and those are to be effective on any new or altered construction or elements in the public right-of-way beginning January 17th this year. So it doesn't look back, but it does look forward. And so anything that is installed or repaired, retrofitted, those things must comply with the new standards. We also have additional ordinances that set forth standards, guidelines, and requirements that must be consistent with the PROAG standards, and I've listed those here. So through our evaluation, we developed findings and a schedule for moving access barriers in the public right-of-way. And I'll give a very brief overview of next steps in the next few slides and highlight changes since the last time we visited. So I believe you're going to hear more about this evening, but there were 10 bus stops that were identified through the evaluation that were not fully compliant because they did not have a bus pad that connected to the accessible route. All of the new BRT stations that were installed were evaluated upon installation and are compliant. The 10 bus stops are scheduled to have completed accessibility improvements by the end of November. We also identified 206 sites within the pedestrian network where there is likely no curb cut or ramp. And so beginning this year, our sidewalk inspectors began collecting data on those locations and where street reconstruction would be happening in order to install compliant curb ramps. We will also, based on public comment, the Disability Rights and Services Program and Engineering will review the standards and drawings for contracted sidewalk repair and construction. And so that was an addition based on public comment we received. We also, by December 2027, will go out and verify those 206 sites in the public right-of-way and determine which program will be used to bring the site into compliance. Generally, when there's not a curb cut or curb ramp, there is some issue with terrain, the slope of the area, or it is in general a more challenging site to install a fully compliant curb cut or curb ramp. And so those sites really need to be evaluated carefully. Initially, when I presented the findings, there was a projected date of 2044 for a full analysis of the sidewalk and curb ramp reconstruction projects. That date has been moved up to 2035. It's been folded into the 10-year cycle of Alder districts so that we can reach it more quickly. And then when complete, we will also include that information as an addendum to the plan. We have a lot of really great existing programs within the city that work to bring things that are either existing and have need repair into compliance, or things that are broken or need replacement. And so through those programs, we address things like crosswalk signals, APS, installing all new accessible pedestrian signals and other traffic safety measures where needed, and also where existing equipment needs to be replaced. We also do a sidewalk network repair and replacement through a 10-year cycle of Alder districts. And people actually physically go out and look at each square of sidewalk. So it is very thorough in order to determine what can be repaired through that program. We do ongoing street safety improvements, which I'm sure you all are very familiar with, but it's prioritizing measures that are proven safety countermeasures, such as speed limits, enhancing crosswalk visibility, improving lighting, adding traffic calming safety improvements, and those are done on an ongoing basis through the Traffic Safety and Safe Streets Madison programs. And then I know accessible pedestrian signals are a particular area of interest for this group. So anytime a new signal head is installed or there's new construction, a accessible pedestrian signal is installed. And so that includes the audio cues about when to cross the street and when to wait. And then the program also gives priority to sites where there's a resident request, as well as equipment that needs to be replaced. I think previously when I came, there was a question of when we would project that we would have a citywide fully accessible pedestrian signal system. And unfortunately, we can't provide a realistic projection for that. I'm not an engineer, but the way I understand it is sometimes when they open up a signal, it's like changing a light bulb, and sometimes it's like rewiring a lamp where they actually have to go below the concrete. And so anticipating which signals will have which type of equipment is difficult. And then also anticipating which ones will need replacement within a given year is also challenging. So we don't have a projection of full accessible pedestrian signals available. Based on feedback through the Disability Summit, we also included two very important issues for Madison residents with disabilities and others. And that's really taking a look at the accessibility of our public right-of-way during construction projects. And so that will be an additional action item in the plan. And then we are also, as soon as you're done with the part of the year that involves construction, you move into snow. So we are also looking at ways to increase accessibility and usability of pedestrian facilities during weather events, particularly those that involve snowplow. And so we're looking at current policy guidance and ways to create more robust outreach so that people know the resources available to them to address areas where the snow or ice is creating an access barrier. Our current policies in this area are compliant, but they're not necessarily functional for folks. And so this is why we're prioritizing this as an additional issue. And then I'll share briefly a summary of the public comments we received related to public right-of-way. I'm really happy to report that overall, our residents were really supportive of the proposed ADA transition plan. In particular, we received positive feedback about addressing sites that have no curb ramp, and adopting PROAG requirements as they relate to perpendicular curb ramps, which offer greater access than a diagonal curb ramp. So where you have sort of a right angle with two curb cuts as opposed to one at the sort of corner of the sidewalk. I hope that visual made sense. And then we also received positive feedback around the use of Polera equipment for APS signals and efforts to prioritize residents' requests in that process. Some of the comments we received were related to things that sort of fall outside of the scope of the city's jurisdiction, like railroad crossings, or outside of the scope of the ADA transition plan. But we did incorporate feedback about reviewing sidewalk repair and construction programs to make sure that our standard drawings are compliant with PROAG. And so that is our just quick overview. I've included my contact information here, and I look forward to answering any questions you all have.
Comments or questions for Rebecca? Pepe, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Rebecca and Amelia, thank you for the report. It's a great update, and it's pretty cool to see all the things that we're doing and that the city will continue to do. And my question is regarding the beginning of the presentation when you talked about more the broader long-term plan and those years, that kind of seem pretty far away, to 2040, 2055. I wanted to confirm, because I think if I heard right, all those plans, those are ongoing plans and things that we're doing. We do them every year. It's just that we expect that they will conclude on that date and then be revised and eventually change. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, so I think the furthest out date of the earlier ones is probably our public facilities. So what that date represents is in each building, office, lobby area, any space the city owns that is open to the public, we did a full analysis of that facility. So like public restrooms, parking lots, doorways. And so we made a very large detailed list, which is included in the plan, of each access barrier. And that schedule identifies these are the things we can fix by 2026. These are the things we can fix by 2027. It is a substantial resource investment to bring our buildings to compliance, as well as labor. And so that's why that date is projected very far out. I will say that we adopted the same priorities that are used by the ADA Center in terms of what to fix first. And so that's, can people get into the building? Can folks access services is priority 2. Priority 3 is using the restroom. And then priority 4 is things like water fountains, public telephones, things like that.
Excellent. So then you have the priority tiers, and then the priority 5 would say it's like when it's due for reconstruction, right? Like if it were to be due for reconstruction, then it will be analyzed regardless of the priority. So that's kind of like the ongoing effort as well. Did I freeze?
Rebecca,
Or what?
Rebecca looks like she might be frozen there. Amelia, I don't know. I would guess, are you suggesting, Pepe, that if there's they have to do some sort of construction project or remodeling in the building or whatever, then they would comply with ADA. I'm certain that would
That's
be
what
the case.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm guessing. That's what I'm hoping it is.
Yeah. Ben, did you have something to say about that?
Yeah, I actually worked with Rebecca on the ADA transition plan team for the public right-of-way side, not the facility side, but in terms of the public right-of-way, Pepe, you're absolutely correct. That, you know, the idea is that over that 10-year cycle, we will have identified everything, and as we go through the aldermanic districts, then everything will be taken care of after that cycle has been done, or at least identified for sidewalk deficiencies. And then I wasn't quite sure if it sounded like you were asking about the public right-of-way, and that maybe Rebecca answered regarding facilities. So I wasn't quite sure there, but the same thing, what Ann just said, that when buildings are upgraded or, you know, new construction is taking place, then those deficiencies would be addressed at that time as well.
Awesome. Thank you for confirming, Ben.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Did Rebecca come back on?
She is trying to.
Okay.
She's on her
All
way.
right. Okay. Well, Denise, why don't you go ahead? And if Amelia can't answer, hopefully Rebecca will be popping back on here. Maybe Ben can help answer that as well.
Great. Thanks, Ann. I mainly comment just that I'm really pleased with where this is headed, and I'll be excited to help adopt it tonight. I think two things that I particularly want to call out. One is working the curb ramp program into the aldermanic cycle for sidewalk program, because I will say the first night I heard that we wouldn't have updated curb ramps in the city until 2044. I was like, wow, I'll be in my 80s then. So it was hard to hear. So I know that those things take time. So that's a good move to shave 9 years off of that. The other thing, and it doesn't sound like we have a particular plan yet, but I'm really pleased to see the construction accessibility added to the ADA plan, because that is it's just hugely problematic and totally unpredictable and very difficult to navigate. So I'll be curious to see what we put into action around the construction. So those were my two comments.
Thanks, Denise. And we are tracking that, pedestrian detours around construction areas as one of our future agenda topics. So we do have compliance with PROAG on as an annual update at TC. So maybe that's something that we can hear about when we have that annual update. We'll have that opportunity to ask questions of staff and sort of keep track of those things as well.
Yeah, because it's a hard one to be, ongoing actionable about. I just saw just a really nasty situation on Badger Road in Rusk yesterday with construction and the bus stopping in the middle of barrels and, not good pedestrian access. And then in other places, it's well marked. So the inconsistencies are just phenomenal. So it's something we really need to dig into.
Okay, and Amelia, maybe you can take some notes and share some of this with Rebecca, if you would.
Yes, I've been doing that.
Yeah, and I
Great.
apologize. My
here you
computer
are.
just shut down, but I'm back.
Oh, great. That happens. Technology doesn't always work quite the way we hope, does it? It does not. Thanks, Rebecca. Denise, did you have anything else? No? You're good? Okay. Bill, go ahead. Bill, we can't hear you. You might, I don't know, Shiloh, if you have any other options, you might need to sign out of the meeting and sign back in. Did you try that, Bill?
I'm going to turn my computer off and see if that.
Wait, you might have to turn the volume up because I thought I heard you a little bit there.
Right.
Bill, you may be able to move the microphone closer to your mouth because we can hear a little bit. It just sounds far away.
Yeah, I heard a little bit that time. Do you have a volume button or something that can turn you up there?
Or maybe try by disconnecting the headset, connecting again or something like that.
Oh. Because I swear I heard him talking a little bit there. Can you try talking again?
I think the microphone may be a little low. If you can try to move it closer to your mouth.
Yeah, see, we can sort of hear you a little bit, Bill. We just can't hear you well enough.
He may have his microphone set to something other than the computer microphone.
Oh.
Do you know sign?
I was going to say you could email Aiden what you want to say and he could read it to us. That's another option. So Shiloh, you're saying that a different setting other than the computer audio? Because there are little choices by the audio, right?
Yeah, I believe it's so if he goes near his audio on the bottom of the Zoom workplace screen, there should be select a microphone. Or there's a little arrow pointing upwards next to the microphone icon. And then select the microphone is on the top section. It may be he has the wrong thing selected there.
So you could try that, Bill.
Is he still here?
He's there, but again, we can just barely hear him. So something's working. It's just the volume's not there. Now we lost your video, Bill. No, we got your video back. That's good. You want to try one more time, Bill?
Bill, it might have to do with your Bluetooth devices too, because it sounds like this has happened to me when like I have a speaker that is like in a different room that connects to my microphone instead through Bluetooth, and that's why you sound like you're very far away.
Oh.
So maybe disconnecting all your Bluetooth devices and just only keeping the headset, or is that a Bluetooth headset? Maybe it has to do with that. No, wire.
Yeah, we can't hear you still, Bill. Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, Bill. I mean, you could email Aiden and me what you want to say and we can read it. That's a possibility if you want to do that. Aiden, if you want to kind of watch for that.
I believe you could also call in.
Yeah, that's in the original invitation, isn't it? How to do that?
Yep, it's below the invitation for Zoom.
Yeah, so Bill, if you want to try and call in on the phone, that's a great suggestion. Thanks. You can go to the original invitation in your email and it gives you instructions on how to do that if we can't figure out the microphone.
I tried a couple things. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh.
There we go.
Awesome. Obviously, I hit a button. I'm sorry I'm wasting committee time. I had a number of comments, but I want to speak with Rebecca offline. But a couple of things. One is when I agree with Denise that when we started this a couple of years ago, and I had a conversation with Tom Lynch, and we talked about transition plans, and he kept the ball rolling, and we got Rebecca on board in civil rights to do this. And I think I've spoken about this before, but the work that Rebecca and her team has done has exceeded my expectations when I started talking about transition plans several years ago. And I applaud Rebecca and as well as the city for doing this. And it's just an absolute wonderful work that's been done. And there's tweaks that I would like to see, and I think I don't want to take the committee's time to do it, but one is the APS, and I'll ask a question. I don't know if there's anybody from Yang's team on, but when we talk about the APS, and I agree with Jessica, as well as there was a comment that was submitted from the public regarding the APS equipment. Has the city evaluated the APS equipment that is available on the market today, and what will work for the city? What is the most economical, as well as getting the best job done for the city?
I don't know, Yang, can you field that one? Or Denise has her hand up. Did you have an answer to that, Denise, or no?
I can share a little bit. I think the selection of equipment predates my employment with the city, but the current equipment is compliant with PROAG. And I don't know the full cost analysis that was completed, but Laura is one of the more cost-effective and compliant options. But I can't speak to the city's selection process.
Yeah, the technology in this area has just advanced in light years, literally in the last 5 years and so forth. So, and I think there are some things that work better for people with hearing issues, and so I think that and sight issues, that I think this would be worth maybe doing an update on that evaluation of the equipment to see if we're in the right ballpark, and what is the range of costs for the equipment, because I think it's one of those areas that I think we can't really get a handle on it unless we know what we're dealing with as far as the equipment that's available and the cost for the different devices that satisfy, not just satisfy, but do the best job for the city residents. And one of the things that I comment back now, that I guess that was my comment. I have another comment regarding APS, and that is that I know we have, based on citizens' complaints or concerns, needs, as well as looking at where we do this. But I think there's other people that we need to have this for, and that is our visitors. And so where do our visitors go? They go to the Monona Terrace, they go to the Overture, they go to the state capitol, they go to the university. I think we should maybe try to prioritize, and I think Pepe maybe talked about this a little bit also, but I think there really is a need to step back and take a look at where is we'll do it when we put in a new installation, but I think we should look at a priority of locations that would help not just our own citizens, but the citizens that come in and visit us. And I think that's a good experience for people that come in and see that they are able to maneuver better with our traffic signals. And I think so. That's why I think APS is an area that is very, very well worthwhile to take a look to see if we can do a better time frame as far as getting that equipment in. So
thanks. I see that Yang has his hand up. Yang, Rebecca, did you have a comment, or can we go to Yang? Or
we can definitely go to Yang. I might fill in a couple things first, if that's okay, Yang.
Sure, go ahead.
Absolutely.
So in terms of the ADA transition plan, it is really a compliance document. So as a city, we can do many more things above compliance, including exploring other equipment. Those things are kind of beyond the scope of an ADA transition plan, that it really looks at where we are compliant and not. So the plan wouldn't prevent the city from taking any additional actions to improve accessibility, but it would be beyond the scope of the plan to include that additional analysis.
Yeah, I understand.
And
Yeah.
then to your second comment about a priority, we did actually include a priority system for the public right-of-way that'll get folded into the current, forgive me if I say the name of it wrong, the Transportation Equity Plan. And it does include high traffic areas as well as places that are frequented by folks who live here, downtown areas, places where they're continuing complaints, so that it's built into the plan.
Okay, thanks. I had one other comment, and that regarding the recommendation that you're working on of looking at work zone plans particularly for sidewalk replacement. And they're going to look at that by the end of this year. Is that correct?
Yes, the standard specifications gets updated every year. So if we look at it this year, it'll get included in the 2026 update.
So that's really the gist of it, is that things that you're looking at this year that they will have, because those plans are put together on rather short timeframes, and I certainly hope that we have the plans updated for the next year's construction program. So
I hope so too. I mean, having this commission's approval helps us to get the full 80.
Yeah, I think Denise kind of pointed that out, and I certainly have that concern, because I had a project in my Aldermanic district this year, and I would not, for our sidewalk replacement program, if I never see a yellow ribbon again, that would be that would satisfy me. So I'll just leave it at that. So, okay, thank you very much. I applaud the work that you and your team have done, Rebecca, and I certainly will support approval of the transition plan tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. And I think Yang had something to add as well.
Yes, Yang's been waiting patiently to answer those questions that you asked earlier, Bill. Go ahead, Yang.
Yes, sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, was on my bike going home, left the office a little bit too late. So trying to stop and finding the button. That was a little bit hard. But getting back, really quick, answer Bill's question on the APS. We do think that's an important component of our traffic signal system. And so we are installing them everywhere we do signals now. So we did go through several generations of technology. From the very rudimentary system, actually some homemade system that just provide chirping sound. From those to the older power buttons, and now to newer ones. We are constantly looking at the new products that meet the requirements and serve the needs of our community better. So that's definitely going on, and also trying to find economical options on that as well. So so again, our goal is to provide them everywhere, not only at the regular traffic lights, but also at RFB locations that you probably have seen a few of those. When you push a button, it can actually tell you that the RFB is actually flashing or not. So so that's a quick answer on that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Yang. Okay, Denise, you're next.
Thanks, Ann. Bill's comments did trigger one compliance thing for me, and then maybe this is an issue for future discussion. So on the compliance side, and I'm guessing this is included, Rebecca, but I just want to speak to it. I often think about APSs just not being as usable for folks that are deafblind, and because they originally were really geared for those of us that were blind. So access for folks that are deafblind just part of the compliance now? So, some of the haptics and just some of that, can we expect that going forward?
So I can't speak for the U.S. Access Board, but I think that as technology progresses, so will the compliance requirements. The way that the standards get developed, they're always almost a decade behind the current feedback from the community. So I would hope and expect that would be in the next PROAG update. And I think folks in this body should feel empowered to provide that feedback as a need for our community members who are deafblind.
Thanks, Rebecca. So maybe, if we have a conversation, if it goes on our list at some point around guidance for APS selection, might be useful. Yang, you can let me know if that would be useful coming from this body, or if it would be just fine to have an offline conversation about it, because the other feedback that I get from so many folks is the non-uniformity, learning what the signal sounds like at this intersection, but then it's completely different somewhere else. So I think there's deeper conversation to be had around the APS stuff. So wherever it most logically fits and is the best use of people's time and talent, I'd love to see that conversation deepen.
Yeah, there are some technologies that have vibration, and there's also some very newer technologies that link to smartphones.
Yep, exactly.
So, there's a possibility for the future.
Great, thank you.
Ben, did you have something to add, Ben?
Yes, thank you. On just sort of the realistic expectation side of things, and Yang, you might want to jump in here too, but there was mentioned earlier about, okay, well, if we adopt these new design guidelines, new design standards, then great, projects next year will comply with them. And sadly, that's not really how it works, because those projects that are going to be built next year are already in design right now, if the design has not already been completed. And so there is sort of a lag between when those new design standards are adopted and when they actually make it into projects. And so again, just realistic expectations for everyone. I know that everybody at the city and everybody on Yang's team is doing their best, but at the same time, some things have already been designed, they've already been permitted, a contractor's already been hired. It kind of is what it is. And then similarly, on some projects, just because of the way that the project is let, it is a little bit more difficult for the city to oversee those details. So the relatively recent, this last year, reconstruction of Atwood Avenue, I think is a great example of that, where that was actually a Wisconsin DOT-led project. And so, brand new project, brand new crossings, and they did not install accessible pedestrian signals. And good golly, did that make me mad when I saw it. But nevertheless, although there was a city project, but the design was led by the state. And so again, our hands are kind of tied there. And so those signals will have to go back in and replace those controllers with actual accessible buttons. And then finally, my last point on that is that, it uses the same acronym. So there's a lot of confusion, but there's a difference between an audible pedestrian signal and an accessible pedestrian signal. And so a lot of what we have right now are audible pedestrian signals, but they are not accessible. And accessible ones are, by definition, they also have those haptics that they have the vibrotactile feedback, so that if you leave your hand on it, you can feel what's happening. You don't have to see a light. You don't have to hear anything. And so moving forward, again, we will be moving towards accessible pedestrian signals, because that's what PROAG calls for and what our ADA transition plan calls for. And I just, again, want to say that's different from an audible pedestrian signal, which is what many of our current APS are.
Thanks, Ben. Very helpful. Yang, go ahead.
Thank you, Delisa and Ben. Ben is definitely correct. But I definitely agree with Denise's points on minimize the the variance that we have right now in our system in regarding to accessible pedestrian signals. I think the challenge is that it's a relatively new thing, and there has been generations of products. We have to grab whatever it's available at that time. So we do have a lot of variability in the field right now. But I think it's a good point, and I think we'll try work hard to reduce that to be more consistent. I think the market is getting more mature on this. With the new requirements come out, so hopefully we'll see more consistent designs across different manufacturers, and we also will be paying special attention on the consistency side when we purchase those equipment. Another thing, I think the challenge that Ben mentioned, correlation with other agencies, who may be involved in the project, we'll be more mindful on that as well. We'll try to do our best to, try to persuade other agencies involved in roadways projects in the Madison area. Let's try to all use the same type of equipment to reduce the confusion and the learning curve for our users. So thank you. Oh, by the way, I also want to say that I just got a text message from my colleague, David Hansen, who leads our traffic signal, lighting, fiber optic group. He just confirmed that we do install APS at every new installs now, and also we're prioritizing to the existing locations to replace those locations when we can. So I want to thank him for that information as well.
Thank you, Yang. And Rebecca, if you could just confirm, while you were offline, I think it was Pepe asked a question with regard to facilities. We have a long timeline there for compliance. And he asked the question that if there were repairs or reconstruction or something were required or initiated, we all assume that everything would be brought up to compliance with ADA in that case. So I assume we were correct in that assumption?
It's a both and. So we're going back and doing remediation. We're also no longer going to be leasing facilities if they cannot be made readily accessible or readily compliant. And then in collaboration with engineering, whenever there is a remodel or reconstruction, or there's been a lot of remodels, for example, in our city county building, and even things that are built brand new aren't always compliant. And so engineering staff will be submitting a new checklist for each new facility so that we can evaluate if things are done compliant in the build, and then where additional work is needed on new sites. So ideally, we won't have to go back and do this full audit again. We can keep good records moving forward and make sure anything we acquire or lease or remodel is evaluated and made compliant.
Great. It's even better than we thought. So awesome.
I told you all I want to do this so well that we don't have to do it again.
Yeah. Well, very excellent job. I mean, we've all been very, very interested in this topic, and we've had a lot of opportunity to talk with you along the way. So just clearly a lot of work has been put into this, and, really, really well done. And we appreciate the opportunity to be able to add comments and thoughts along the way, which, obviously people have been doing this tonight and have been doing offline with you as well. So we appreciate that opportunity. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Then we would need a motion. This was a referral from the Common Council, so they're looking for a recommendation from us. Bill?
I'll make a motion for approval of the transition plan as presented this evening.
Okay, so you're recommending approval to the Common Council?
Absolutely.
Okay, Denise?
Yep, I'm very happy to second.
Okay, so we have a recommendation for, we have a motion to recommend approval to the Common Council. Is there further discussion? A lot of great feedback, a lot of great input along the way, which is very much appreciated. I am going to assume a unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no or abstain. If so, please raise your hand. And the motion is carried unanimously. So again, thanks so much. And Rebecca, I can't even imagine how much time you've committed to this, and really great job. And I know there's been a lot of people involved with this, and there will continue to be a lot of people involved with it. So we look forward to hearing from you as we have that annual update on PROAG scheduled to come to the Transportation Commission as well. So
thank you so much for your support and collaboration. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much to you as well. And Amelia, nice to meet you and hope to see you again. Okay, thanks so much, everybody. Let's move on to Flom Road. Steve.
Good evening, everybody. You can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
All right. Can I share my screen? Let's see. Let's get back to this. I don't know. Share. Here we go. This should work. I think this is working. Let me know if
As
you
it
guys,
is.
you guys see it.
You've started. Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you all. I'm here to present Flom Road Resurfacing Assessment District for a second time. We received a lot of comments from Transportation Commission and a lot of residents as well. So we revisited this and we're looking at a completely new design. So I'm here to present that to you tonight. We're going to look at the project location. I think everyone's pretty well aware of it. It's Flom Road from Stoughton Road to Monona Drive. The purpose of the meeting, the existing street cross sections, the proposed cross sections. We also had a parking study and a speed study done, and we did receive our survey results after our second PIM. So here is the project. I'm gonna move that. All right. Project limits are basically Stoughton Road to Monona Drive. It's going to be a full-blown, I mean, it's called a resurfacing project, but all the utilities are replacing. So we're going to save as much curb as possible, but it's essentially a reconstruction project. We're here to inform the commission regarding the upcoming project, street layout options, and to let you know how the public meeting and questionnaire went and gain feedback from the commission of your preferred option. And I think I know where you guys are going with this. So here's our existing layout. It's a 66-foot right-of-way, parking on both sides with two 14-foot drive lanes. This is a bus route and a truck route. So reducing the dry-in lane width is very troublesome because with a truck route and a bus route, I think the minimum width we ever want to go with is 26 feet to maintain good access for buses and trucks. But this is our existing condition. Our initial report to the Transportation Commission was to try and remove and replace as is and put in bike lanes wherever possible, but that was not very well received. So our option one, and everything is in my way. I can't read my screen. Sorry about that.
Yeah, there's something down in the bottom. I'm not sure what that is that's showing.
Yeah, I wonder if I just hit X. Oh no, can't do that. There.
There you go.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So here's our option one. This was our first option that we presented to the board. Resurface the existing road, leave it at the 44-foot road width and parking as it is today. Remove and replace curb and gutter and driveway as needed. Add 5-foot bike lanes on both sides of the street and include 2-foot buffers on the bike lanes in limited locations where space allows. Install medians at the intersections with camped Camden Road and Maher Avenue, Turner Avenue, Spanham Avenue, Kwame, and Groveland Terrace and Alder Road. RRFBs will put in at Alder Road, Groveland Terrace, and Camden Road to help slow traffic. So that was kind of our original presentation to the TC. And I understand a lot of concerns, and many of the residents as well as the school had concerns with this presentation. Option 2 was trying to throw in a buffered bike lane wherever possible. We could get it by reducing the driveway lift and pulling parking on one side. We could get a buffered bike lane for the majority of it, but it still doesn't quite meet all abilities, doesn't meet our standards. And rather than reading the whole thing, I'm just kind of breeze through it. So our option 3, which was well received, and I think you guys would approve of this as well. Narrow the street, install 8 to 10 foot off-street path on the north side of Pflaum, which connects the existing shared youth path on Monona Drive. That's along Monona Golf Course there. The off-street path would then end at South Stoughton Road Service Road at the east end of the project. We're going to install medians at Alder, Groveland Terrace, and the La Follette parking lot entrance, and then RFBs at Alder and Groveland Terrace and Camden Road to help slow traffic. We're going to remove parking on Pflaum Road. There'll be full replacement of curb and gutter as well as drive aprons along the north side. Majority of it along the north side will spot replace on the south side. So the majority of Pflaum has an 8-foot bike lane. You know, we're kind of limited by the existing right of way and trying to get everything ADA compliant and save as many trees in the terrace as possible. So we kind of pieced it together the best we could. We're trying to get 10-foot path as far as we can, but to save the trees and not have to acquire right away from every resident abutting this property, we're doing the best we can to get an 8 to 10 foot path along this entire frontage. So in front of Senate, the path would be reduced down to 8 foot with a 4-foot concrete terrace in the bus loading area. This will allow the students to easily get access from the sidewalk through the terrace path into the buses from the school. In front of La Follette, we'll have, and all the sidewalk on the north side stays as is, we'll replace as needed, and we'll improve every intersection with ADA compliance as we proceed through west to east from Monona to Stoughton Road. And I mean, I could go through it. So we have in front of La Follette, we have the 5-foot walk, a 5-foot terrace, a 10-foot path, and an 8-foot terrace. Then we'll have 2 12-foot through lanes and the turn lane to allow access into La Follette School. And in front of Senate, that's where the bus loading is. That's why we had the 11-foot bus loading. That's where all the yellow buses and I think Madison Metro stage for loading the students. And then from Camden to La Follette, we'll get a 10-foot path, an 8-foot terrace with still leaving the 5-foot sidewalk, 5-foot terrace. So essentially we're pulling all the curb from the north side and moving it out about 14 feet, 18 feet. Now, bouncing to, we did do a parking study, and I think I presented this to you on the first meeting. There was very few cars that park on Pflaum. In the 800 block, there was 1 car on a Sunday in the 800 block on the north side. And in the 900 block, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, there was a few cars. Saturday, it seemed like there was several cars parked between Kwame and Hero Lane. All of these blocks from Kwame to the east are just 2 houses and then a side street, 2 houses, side street, 2 houses, side street. So removing parking on Pflaum isn't gonna hurt as much because you have side street parking all the way through there. And then with our speed study, we did have, 40 for west direction, 49% of the speed was within the speed limit, 20 to 25 miles an hour, 25 to 30, 22%, and over 30 miles per hour, there was a small percentage. East direction, the same thing, a small percentage over the 30 miles per hour. I did have some residents complain about speeding, and they commented on this speed study. They thought it was incorrect, but it depends on the time of day that you take it. So I think moving forward, so here's our, these are the results from our survey that we put out after our public informational meeting number 2. We posted these, the questionnaire, and it sat on the website for over a month for people to respond. So option 1 was the one we showed earlier, leaving it as is. Remove and replace curb and gutter driveways as needed. Add 5-foot bike lanes on both sides of the street to include 2-foot buffer on the bike lanes in limited locations where space allows. Install the medians at the intersections of Camden, Maher, Turner, Spanham, Bombay, and Groveland Terrace and Alder Road. I have the RRFBs at Alder and Groveland Terrace. Then we're going to add one in at Camden as well. This option does not follow the complete Green Street Guide because it doesn't meet all ages and abilities bike network guideline for the bike priority streets such as Flom. Very few supportive. It was like 15%. Not supporting was 45%. Option 2 was the second slide that I showed you guys, resurfacing the existing road, leaving at 44-foot width, remove and replace curb and gutter and driveways as needed, remove parking on one side of the street and add a 4-foot bike lane 6 foot to the face of the curb, maintaining parking on the other side while adding a 4-foot bike lane with a 2-foot buffer on both sides, a 2-foot buffer from both the parking lane and the travel lane. Install the medians at the intersection of Camden Road, Maher Avenue, Turner Avenue, Spanham Avenue, Kwame Lane, Groveland Terrace, and Alder Road with RRFBs at Alder, Groveland, and Camden. Again, this one didn't follow the complete Green Streets guideline. It does not meet all ages and abilities. Very few supported. A lot of people could live with it. Option 3, which is the option that the city would like engineering is presenting to you. This is the option we are going with. It was well supported. 60% of the people supported it. It's installing a 8 to 10 foot off-street path on the north side of Flom Road. Connects the existing shared use path on Monona Drive, which I believe is an 8-foot path. It would end at the East Stoughton Road Service Road, which would allow, when the state finally reconstructs Stoughton Road, to have some tie-in to an existing bike path that we'll have in place once this gets reconstructed. We'll install medians at Alder, Groveland Terrace, and La Follette parking lot, and RFBs at Alder, Groveland Terrace, and Camden to help slow traffic. Parking will be removed on all of Flom Road. There will be a full replacement of the curb and gutter as well as driveway aprons, especially on the north side. This option follows our complete Green Streets guideline, as Flom Road is all ages and ability bike network. And this is the actual design we are going to go with if you guys are okay with that.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Bet.
Alder Ogovich, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I want to say good job on this. I like option 3. Expected.
I thought so, yes. I think everyone, I mean, a lot of the people abutting this project are actually in supportive as well. And I think we received 3 emails that you also received in support of the bike path on the north side.
You did mention that the school was also in support of it. Is that reflected in these survey results, or is that a separate meeting?
we've been working hard with the school to try and get this bike facility installed. We do need to acquire some easements and right-of-way acquisitions with this, and currently working with them with this design. I think we're in agreement with where we're at, and I don't think it's going to be a problem getting the school to grant us some easements to install this.
Thanks,
But
Steve.
was the school, I believe, weren't you asking if the school's input was reflected in the survey? Is that what you're also asking?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, a lot of the students did respond. And I think a lot of the emails you even received in today's response are probably from students and staff from the school.
Okay.
Is that all you had then, Alder?
That is. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Kayla, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I also think option 3 is a slam dunk here. I do want to ask, I noticed one of the public commenters mentioned just like, why aren't we thinking about narrowing the street at all?
Oh, yeah.
I think you addressed that with the with the buses. Is that?
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It is a bus route and a truck route. We don't want to go much narrower than 26. 26 feet is the narrowest. I think traffic engineering would like us to go to allow access with buses and trucks, especially with turning movements. So we did everything we can. We're going to do everything we can, Kaylee, to try and get 10 feet path as long as the stretch as we can, but there's going to be some limitations that it is going to drop down to 8, especially at some of the intersections. We do have the design fairly close, and we already have all the grades and everything in here, so we're trying to make sure everything's ADA compliant, and we're doing the best we can to force as much into a 10-foot path as we can. But ADA accessibility is a difficult thing, especially with the limited right-of-way. It's fairly simple to acquire right-of-way from the school because they're using a lot of the facilities anyways, and I think they're going to be okay with that. We haven't been in complete conversations with them, but we do have some emails back and forth trying to get that approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keely. Alder O'Brien, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for coming out tonight. I also agree option 3 is pretty fantastic. But I have a couple of questions. One, is the cement median extending the whole length? Or is it, because you mentioned this and I was just trying to take notes.
Right. Okay. No, it's not going to be the entire length. It's going to be in front of Senate where all the students load up on the buses. La Follette didn't want concrete for the entire stretch. They had some concerns with maintenance. So we limited the concrete terrace to the bus loading zone in front of Senate. La Follette, the maintenance crew did have a lot of concerns with full concrete terrace and who's going to maintain it. So they were looking forward to seeing some grass in there. So in front of La Follette, especially, I think there was an 8-foot terrace in there. Let's see. In front of a path, and then yes, an 8-foot terrace with some, and they also had a lot of concerns, and I don't think anyone asked this, but with the trees in front of the La Follette, so they wanted to limit the amount of trees in front of La Follette just because students seemed to do. The comment I got was they were worried about damage, and then their plowing was always problematic.
Okay. And then with the speed study, did you you mentioned that you had hours on it. I would just be curious to know, when I was a teenager, I had a lead foot and I still kind of do. And so I'm curious, to know how many of those, how much of that speeding and that percentage going over is due to high school kids.
Yeah.
doing what high school kids do versus, you know, the folks who live on the street, which looks very different.
Right. And I would assume that, but that's you and I making, and I'm sorry, I didn't do the study. Allie might have some more information regarding when the study was done, but I would assume that too, that it was the students doing most of the speeding, but sorry.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to send you the results of the study. It was during the week, during a school day. And so, I mean, that could be true. And yeah, I mean, this study, you know, the percentage of over 30 is low, but then there were some big outliers. Like I think there was someone going like 60 miles an hour, like one car. So yeah, you have those outliers as well. So I'd be happy to send it to you if you're interested.
Yeah, I would. If you could send that over, that'd be fantastic.
Sure.
Allie, why don't you send it to Aiden Larson and then he can forward it to everybody on TC?
Yep, I'd be happy to do that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Allie.
And then I have one last question, because this is a bus route. I know that schools often have a lot of buses, you know, dropping kids off, picking kids up. Are there going to be any like carve outs for the buses to pull into, or are they going to be stopping in front of the school, or are the schools going to be directing?
We actually have a bus lane in front of Senate. And it's kind of hard to see. So we have a 12-foot through lane, and I think it'd be easiest to probably see it here. So bus loading is where the school buses and Madison Metro. So there'll be 11-foot bus loading area in front of Senate where the concrete terrace is.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks, Alder. Pepe, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Steve and team, Ali and everybody for bringing this other options forward. I think the improvement is notable, and I appreciate that. I have a few questions regarding the same slide, just clarification questions. So what's in between the green lines?
That's the curb. So that's the edge of gutter and the face of curb. That's a 2-foot buffer. That's your edge of gutter.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So it's a curb gutter. Yeah, that's what I was imagining. And then my next question is, I remember some photos in the past when we were having like the TC in the beforehand that there were some photos of how the school buses were parking and, you know, overlaying on top of the lane or bike lane, whatever setup it was. Yep. Is the 11-foot loading bus accounting for that now? Is it plenty of room for the buses to park?
There's plenty of room. So before, well, even now, the bus is actually out in the lane. With this pull-out bus loading area, they will not be hindering the lane at all. It'll be a separate through lane, so they won't have to swerve around the bus.
Excellent. I love that. My next question is about what happens in between La Follette and Camden. Would you mind just mentioning to me again, is it every intersection that is getting pedestrian islands?
No, there's with this third phase, the only place that we could fit islands in is at Alder Road, Groveland Terrace, and La Follette parking lot, where the turn in and out of the school parking lot is. Those are the only places that would fit an island. We still will put an RFB at Camden to help slow traffic because the road is too narrow to put islands in. So most of the islands were all going to be contained within the school zone.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my concern is coming from the fact that, you know, Pflaum just being like people coming from the highway, people coming from 51, right, you know, with 51 feelings. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can and that we have on hand, at hand to slow them down and make them feel that they're actually entering a neighborhood.
It is. It's narrowed all the way to 26 feet right at Camden. So from Camden to the frontage road, that's the only transition area where they took down that. So there's going to be a short block of transition from Stoughton Road to Camden Road. But once you get to Camden, it's 26 foot until you get to the school. So it'll be more of a local road type.
How does that compare to the current width of the street?
The current width is 44, so we're knocking off 18 feet. And we have to do a small transition from Camden towards the frontage road. Let's see if I can show. All right, so as you get to the frontage road, look, it's quite wide. So we take it, and that's actually more than 44. It's probably more like 60 foot there. So this is the frontage road right here. Can you see my little hand?
Yep.
Kinda? Yeah, that's the frontage road. So as soon as we get past that frontage road, we narrowed the street up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's like a funnel.
Yep, it is.
And then that 10-foot path, if I see that correct, that kind of blends into the
right
sidewalk.
Here. Yep. It ties into the sidewalk. So the dotted line is what we're hoping the state will put in when they redo Stoughton Road. So that dotted line is just a potential new path when the state finally does Stoughton Road reconstruct. So we do have to acquire some right of way as well from that. It's a gas station / I think it's going to be a car wash.
Okay.
So to get that path in, we do have to acquire some right of way from them as well.
Okay. In that area where the path and the sidewalk blend in, how is there gonna be a ramp to get on the path from the street?
Yes, right here. That's a ramp right there.
Oh, but it's at the intersection. Yeah, I was wondering if there was anything like further down, like assuming the cyclist comes from the road and can just go straight and have a ramp.
We're kind of limited what we can do on the frontage road because that's actually state right away. From everything past this construction zone is state owned right away. So we're going to do whatever we can in the city portion of the right away.
How about left of that?
Left of it?
Yeah, have a ramp in that diagonal area where the road is shrinking. Even further left, like if I were to put my mouse, kind of like there, but if you go up, in that area,
like a
kind
crossing here.
More than a crossing, a crossing would be amazing too. But just I'm thinking where the path begins.
Oh, I
so
see.
So you can either come from the sidewalk or from the street.
I gotcha. Okay, I gotcha. So you want a merge on ramp?
Exactly.
Yeah, we can look. We can definitely look at that.
Imagine there was a bike lane. I know there's not, but imagine someone was riding their bike as if there was a bike lane, and they would just hop onto the path without having to go on the sidewalk.
Yeah, we'll definitely look at that. Man, I see what you mean. You want to just like a merging bike lane from this side to get into the path here.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. To avoid potential interaction between people walking and biking. It would be ideal for people that are already biking on the road that they can just hop in, and we can do the same on the other side. I haven't seen, how does this corner look like on the Monona side?
Yeah. The other side, oops, got to go the other way. So that's City of Monona. Our limited reconstruct is actually here. We're going to carry that path through. So everything east of right here, everything west of here is the City of Monona, not the City of Madison. We would have to ask them if they're okay with that, but we could ask them to see if we can throw in a merge ramp.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, again, the main focus here is to minimize the crossing between sidewalks and paths.
Right, I understand that. Thanks for your comment.
Awesome.
I actually like that idea too. So we'll see if we can work that in.
All right, thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Other comments or questions? And we've been asked to make a motion on the preferred option design. Do we have anybody willing to make a motion? Alder Martinez Rutherford.
I move to approve option 3.
Okay, there's a motion to approve option 3. Alder Okovich.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve option 3. Did you wish to speak to your motion at all, Alder?
No, thank you.
Okay. Pepe, did you have some discussion?
Yes, may I request that we put in the motion, I mean, unless other people are against it, but the comments that I made on adjusting that design and looking into that, may I request that we add that into the motion, that's considered?
So you're asking if we can include adjusting the design to include the merge ramps for the
Merge
bike
ramps.
path? Would that be a good way to describe it?
Correct.
So Alder Martinez Rutherford and Alder Okovich, would you be willing to accept that friendly addition to include adjusting the design to add, I just have to write this down, add merge ramps for the bike path? Does that sound good, Pepe?
Yep.
And I would absolutely concur with that.
And Alder Okovich, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion now is move to approve option 3 to include adjusting the design to add merge ramps for the bike path.
I do have one comment. What if we can't get that in design wise? I mean, would that be an issue? I mean, so we'll do the best we can to get those in, but I can't promise that it'll fit without taking out any trees or cause any other problems.
So would everybody be willing to amend it to say to try and include?
Yes, I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good for you, Steve, but let's see what Pepe, Alder Martinez Rutherford, and Alder Okovich say about that. Pepe, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, instead of the try, I would suggest saying like the staff will look into it. The staff will look into improving the merging by, if when possible, add a ramp as an option for merging.
Okay.
Sorry. I mean, you have the power to pick the right words. I was just thinking out loud.
It's just really hard when I have to try and run the meeting and write all this stuff down and read it back to you guys.
I'll help you then.
So
add
let's
ramps
see.
where possible.
So how about if we say, and Alders, let me try this first and then I'll ask you what you think about it. So we move to approve option 3 and ask staff to I think we should just say and ask staff to try and include adjust
Or to consider adding merging ramps for the bike path on both ends.
Okay, all right, we'll try that. Move to approve option 3 and ask staff to consider adding merge ramps for the bike path to the design. Alder Martinez Rutherford, how do you feel about that?
I feel like it's acceptable.
Okay, how about Alder Okovich?
Yes.
Okay, so
Thank
the
you.
motion now is move to approve option 3 and ask staff to consider adding merge ramps for the bike path to the design. Pepe, that works for you, I assume? Okay. Is there discussion on the motion? Alder Martinez Rutherford.
I would just like to say thank you, Pepe, and thank you, Steve, for all the work you've done on this and for taking into consideration the input from the community. That's well.
You know, Alder, I remember our conversation. our long conversation about this, and we hit staff with a lot of recommendations for changes. And wow, you came back with something that really addressed pretty much everything we asked for, didn't they? Yeah. So really, really, yeah.
Wow.
You got some applause from everybody. So really, really appreciate it. Very, very much so.
I'm glad you're happy. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I think it really, and I was so glad to see the response in your survey as well, that everybody seemed to think that this was going to be something that was really going to be helpful to them too. So really a win-win, but we recognize that it took a lot of staff time, and we do appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
So we have a motion on the table. I'll read it one more time. The motion is to approve option 3 and ask staff to consider adding merge ramps for the bike path to the design. Okay, I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote unless anybody wishes to vote no or abstain or wishes a roll call vote. So please raise your hand. Okay, the motion is carried unanimously. So great job, and again, great feedback and input from the commissioners. So pretty exciting to see that all down on paper. So thanks, Steve and Allie and let's see, who else was there? Sean as well, right?
Yeah.
Everybody who was involved in the project, thanks so much for that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Let's move on to Metro Transit Onboard Survey Report. Ben.
All right. Thank you all. I'm looking forward to sharing this with you. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look over the link that was in your packet. There are a lot of charts and information in there. I do not plan on going over all 100 plus tables and charts with you this evening. You've got other things to do as well, but I do kind of want to just go over the kind of high points and the summary, and then give a chance to go over any questions if you have any. I'm just going to pull this up. And actually, because I was looking at something else, I just ran a streetlight analysis on Flom corridor and speeding to see what was going on there and when it was happening. But I haven't had a chance to look at it. It just finished running when this item kicked on. So I'll be interested to look at that, and I'll be happy to share that with Steve later on as well. So moving to the Metro Transit Onboard Survey, and I guess I should probably actually back up just a little bit. I'm Ben Lyman. I'm a transportation planner with the Greater Madison Metropolitan Planning Organization. I think most of you are probably aware of who we are, but in case some of you are not, although we are housed within the City of Madison Planning Department, we're actually a regional agency that's primarily federally funded. We work with communities in addition to Madison throughout the urban area, and in some cases countywide, to make sure that we're convening and collaborating in regional transportation planning issues. We do administer several federal funding programs that help fund reconstruction of projects and other transportation things throughout the county. One of our tasks that we have a cooperative agreement with the City of Madison, Metro Transit and Wisconsin DOT, is that we do the update of the transit development plan for Metro. That was approved last January by our MPO policy board. You did look at the draft, but there were no recommendations at that time, so you didn't actually all adopt anything. Another one of our tasks that we work with on Metro is that we basically run their onboard surveys so that they don't have to do that legwork and manage consultants to do that. And so in 2024, we did retain Cambridge Systematics and a subconsultant, Kennedy Medina, to conduct this onboard survey. And they came out with a sort of basic report that's been available. I think they came out with it in July of 2024, very high level, more about how the survey was conducted than about the results from it. And so we released in July of this year our onboard survey report. And I'm going to dive in and talk a little bit about sort of the purposes of that and then what the big takeaways are. This survey, the purpose of this survey is two parts, essentially. One is to identify ridership trends and information about who is using different routes. Under Title VI, we are required, and Metro is required, to meet a higher bar when they want to change service on routes that serve predominantly minority and low-income populations. And so this survey helps identify which routes those are, that Metro then has to meet that higher bar if they want to reduce service or move a bus off of a one road and put it on another. If it's a bus that's serving low income and minority areas, again, they have to do more research, and they have to show how they're not disproportionately impacting those populations. That's also really important for us as a regional transportation planning agency. This feeds into our regional travel demand model. And so we collect a lot of information about where did you start your trip? Where did you get on the bus? Where did you get off, or will you get off the bus? And where are you going in the end, as well as how many transfers do you make along the way? That then gets extrapolated and blown up to basically represent all of the trips within the service. And then that gets fed into the big computer model of our regional travel demand model, which then allows us to say, well, gosh, since so many people are riding the bus, we don't actually need to have so many lanes on Stoughton Road, because now we have more people who are riding the bus. And so we have that excess capacity. And that allows us then to plan for appropriate reconstruction levels, and making sure that we're not going to bring things to gridlock, and we're also not going to overbuild facilities and just put way too much concrete and asphalt out there that isn't going to be used. So this part of it is going to be looking primarily at just more of that Title VI side of things. We're not going to go into the technical side of how the onboard survey goes into that travel demand model. That's kind of some black box stuff that I don't even deal with. I should note that one of the things that took us a long time between the April survey in 2024 and releasing this report in July of this year is that we had to go through and clean up all of those origin, boarding, alighting, and destination points. You'd be surprised how many people said that they got on the bus at Quick Trip. Well, which Quick Trip? And so we needed to go through and look and say, okay, they were on Route B, and they were headed westbound. And so which Quick Trip would it make sense for this to be? And we had to go through and look at each and every of the nearly 4,000 surveys that were completed and verify all 4 of those points. If we're not able to, those survey results can still come into the report that I'm going to share this evening, but it can't go into that regional travel demand model because we can't verify what the trip was that they made. Another part of that manual review is verifying transfers. It's amazing how many people said that they get on the A, the F, and the R, and they transfer 3 times in order to get between Sheboygan and Eau Claire and going to the University of Wisconsin off of, we'll say, Johnson Street somewhere. Routes A, F, and R all run in exactly the same alignment between those reported boarding and alighting locations. There is absolutely no reason that anyone would ever transfer between those buses if they were making that trip. And so either they're talking about in the course of their entire day, they will ride 3 buses to get to school and then to work and then home, or they're saying they could take any of those 3 buses and they don't really care which one they get on because they're just going to get on whichever one comes first. And so we go through and we verify to make sure that what they've reported actually makes sense for their trip. And then we're able to have that cleaner data that we can then report on. So it did take a lot of time. It was very labor intensive. But there's not much to do about it. If you want good data, you have to spend the time to clean it up. So now I'm going to dive into the key findings, and there are really 3 points to this. The first, one of the really important things with the transit network redesign in 2023 was trying to reduce the number of transfers required for Black and African American riders and for low-income riders. And the old transfer point system, many people who live in predominantly minority communities or in lower income neighborhoods on the periphery of Madison would have to get on one bus, travel out of direction to get to a transfer point, transfer to another bus, and then travel on that bus to where they actually wanted to go. And so as it says here, in 2015, which is the last time we did an onboard survey like this, in 2015, 49% of Black and African American riders needed to transfer in order to complete their trips, and only 15% of white riders needed to transfer. Black and African American riders do still transfer at much higher rates, 33%, than most other racial groups, or the system average of 13%. But the transit network redesign does appear to have reduced the need for Black and African American riders to transfer to complete their trips. So that's really, it's big news. As you can see here, the top right of this screen, the number of transfers by race, Black and African American riders are still transferring at much higher rates than most other racial and ethnic groups. Just a little bit more than American Indian Alaska Native riders. But still, vastly more than the system overall, and certainly a lot more than white or Asian riders have the lowest need to transfer. And this was intentional. We used streetlight analysis as we were doing the redesign to look and say, okay, if folks live in this neighborhood, where are they currently going? And then we were able to design the routes to serve those trips and to reduce the need for out of direction travel. So the G and H routes were a big part of that, because a lot of folks who live on the periphery of Madison, we found, were actually moving around the periphery of Madison, not trying to go into downtown or to the university. And so by redesigning those routes, we can make a single route serve a lot more trips, a lot more completely. So again, here in figure 30, we compare the 2015 and 24 transfer rates. And as you can see, Black and African Americans went from 49% requiring a transfer to complete their trip in 2015 to only 33% in 2024. While white riders also improved in terms of not having to transfer as much, but by a much smaller amount, just went from 15% to 14%. So we count this as a huge win for the transit network redesign and a validation of the work we did there in redesigning those routes. The second big takeaway is the same sort of thing, but for low-income riders. In 2015, 34% had to transfer, compared to only 17% of mid and high-income households. Following the transit network redesign, it was reduced to 13% for low-income households and 14% for mid and high-income households. So, here we actually kind of flip the script a little bit, where all of a sudden now, after the transit network redesign, more of those high-income households are required to transfer than are those low-income household riders. And so I think this is really a huge validation of the transit network redesign and of the success that we had in better meeting the transportation needs of our lower income neighbors and riders. So really good news there. The final big takeaway is that sadly, not everyone benefited from the transit network redesign. And we've heard a lot from the disabled community and disabled advocacy groups, folks with mobility impairments, that they do not like the network redesign nearly as much. And it makes sense. Routes were pulled further apart. And so now folks have to go farther to get to a route. That route may come twice or 4 times as often as it used to, but they are further apart, which means for folks who have a hard time navigating our street and sidewalk network, or just a hard time moving about on their own, the network redesign was not really to their benefit. So we'll pop over to, oh, no, I don't want that screen. Let's go sneak in. Okay, there we go. So here we have the attitude towards the June 2023 route changes by disability and mobility impairment. The top line is no, I do not experience a disability or mobility impairment. Second line down, yes, I do. And so you can see the 15%, that's not a very legible or accessible color combination. My apologies there. But so 15% of folks who don't experience a disability or mobility impairment said that the route changes were poor, whereas 29% of people who experience a disability or mobility impairment said that the changes were poor. Interestingly, in terms of like saying it's not applicable or didn't really matter very much, about the same number in both of those populations. And in fair as well, 31% of both populations said that the changes were fair. But then when we look at that positive side, the good and great, 29% of folks without a disability said that the changes were good, while only 20% of those with disability said it was good. 14% of those without a disability said that the changes were great, while only 9% of people with disability said those changes were great. So we can definitely see that there is some disproportionate impact there. And that's something that Metro is aware of, that we at the MPO are aware of. And I think that this really redoubles the need for all of us to be looking at complete and accessible sidewalk networks and all ages and ability bicycle facilities that enable folks to get from where they are to our bus system and our transit system. And so both of the items previous to this on the agenda this evening fit right into that, with the ADA transition plan and making sure that our sidewalk network is accessible, the curb cuts are where they need to be, that folks can get around their neighborhoods and to get to transit safely, whether they're by wheelchair, walking, bicycle, scooter, unicycle, pogo stick, doesn't really matter. We just need to make sure that folks are able to get to the buses safely as much as possible. So that's sort of my high level snapshot of the onboard survey. I would be happy to answer any questions, dive into any other charts or graphs if anyone has any particular questions. But that's what I have for a report.
Thanks, Ben. Comments or questions for Ben, or Mick Rush is here too. I'm not seeing any hands right now, Ben. Mick, I know you're here. Alder Okovich, go ahead. I'll
Yes.
save my question.
Sorry, I had to
No, go ahead.
think of my question.
Sure.
With regards to the satisfaction, I don't remember exactly which graph it was, but I noticed there was I think it was either satisfaction or safety. There was a pretty large jump for the African American and the American Indian demographics compared to the other races. And I was wondering if, I guess maybe just a more general question, is there a demographic heat map of where people are boarding the bus by race that we can use to target better increases in bus routes or better sidewalks? Some of those things that you were mentioning. I'm basically looking for can we translate a lot of this demographic and satisfaction information into a map?
The short answer is yes. That is part of the expansion of the survey results, and then what goes into our regional travel demand model. That work has not taken place yet. We will be updating the regional model in 2026 as part of our working on our next regional transportation plan, our long range plan out to 2050, that we update every 5 years. And so that will get accounted for there. But at this point, it's not something that we've mapped. We've done the work of, again, clarifying where the trip origin, the boarding, the alighting, and the destination are, but we haven't done the following work to then show that information on a map in an explorable way.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks, Alder. Denise, go ahead.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Ben. This was a really informative report. Just curious if the WSDOT ArcGIS that shows where non-drivers are is also a helpful tool for, kind of looking at these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something that we do look at. Unfortunately, the geographies that they show that at are not terribly useful to us.
They're not granular enough.
Yeah. I don't recall offhand. I think that they manage to do it at, if nothing, I think they might do it at the census block group.
Yeah,
which is certainly better than the tract. Census tracts are useless for our purposes. Like all of Western Dane County is one census tract. You can't use that for planning services for folks. And in terms of what is available through the U.S. Census for, again, people who experience disabilities, that's all at the tract level. And so it's pretty useless for our purposes. This gets us down to looking at in many cases, it's kind of amazing how honest many people were, where we say, what's if you started your trip at how, what is the address? And they wrote down, 123 East Main Street or apartment C. In some cases, they were very specific about, where they started their trip, where they were going. There are other people who are a little bit more feisty and maybe didn't understand, the purpose of the survey and would say, well, that's none of your business. Well, that's fair. But if you could have just said, the intersection of East Washington and Ingersoll, that at least would have gotten us in the ballpark. I don't need to know your home address. But we get the same thing with asking about race. Many people will come in and they say, well, I'm a human being, and why are you so racist that you're asking about race? Well, because it turns out that people with different racial and ethnic backgrounds use our transportation facilities differently, and they have different needs. And we're also required by the federal government, because we're using federal money to do this, to identify who did we hear from? Did we have representative populations of minority populations at the table when we collected this, or somehow did we only survey white people on the buses? So it can be tricky to get that information at a meaningful scale. We do certainly look at what WSDOT has for the non-driving population. But again, just because of the geographies at which that information is available, it's not terribly helpful to us in planning transit service.
I really appreciate knowing that. I'm the chair of the non-driver advisory committee with WSDOT, and so that was one of our first projects. So I'm always interested in how is it being used, and is it useful, and is there a way to make it more useful? So thanks for addressing that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Denise. Alder Harrington McKinney, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm at another event, and so I'll not be able to, and I'll need to leave this meeting at 7:30. I am very pleased that Alder Will was going into a direction that I would really like to go into, and I can't go into it here, but I really want to know statistically is where those pockets are. And I want to look at it by race. And Will, you were going in that direction. I absolutely want to explore that. And thank you very much for the report. It's extensive, but I have some deeper questions that I can't go into now. But please allow me to do that, offline, and then I'll report back to the body. I just need to put myself on mute because I'm in a public place. But I really want to look at the race, the location, and the frequency of the ride. So I will be doing that offline. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. And hopefully you have Ben's contacts info so that you can get in touch with him, Alder.
I couldn't put it in the text, but I see MPO and I know how to reach him.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Either
you.
that or Aiden can connect the two of you together. So
Oh, excellent, excellent. Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, Aiden, if you would do that so that it's easy for Alder to get there. Thanks. And Denise, your hand is still up. Did you want me to lower it? Okay, I got it. All right, excellent. I just wanted to comment. We've heard from Mick and others at Metro Transit with regard to transit issues for people with disabilities and transit equity for people with disabilities. So while the survey results did show what Ben said that they showed, Mick, I think that there are efforts that haven't yet been talked about where you're reaching out to people with disabilities and addressing issues that have come up, et cetera, et cetera. Did you want to talk about that a little bit, Mick?
We had a training session not that long ago. We invited people to come out to the BRT stations, and we had customer service staff there kind of riding along with people. We took practice rides and basically showed people around to people that might be nervous trying the bus out for the first time. One of the other things that we've been talking about a lot are lights at the BRT station that would signal that a driver should extend the ramp. That's something we've been kind of looking into. We haven't found a good solution for it yet, but as we're looking at North-South BRT, Mike Checkwalla, our CAP projects manager, has been looking at something to put into the new construction, and then we could bring it back to East-West. We haven't found a good solution yet, but we know it's an issue. I know Brian's on meeting too, and he and his staff have been making sure that buses are pulling up close to the stations and making sure that that gap isn't making it as small as possible. I know that's something that they've actually been working on. So it's just a lot of different things we've been working on to make that a little bit easier. And it's an ongoing thing. We have a customer service manager dedicated just to customer service this year. And so he's been fielding a lot of those questions and concerns and working really closely with people. So that's what we have going on right now to address those things.
And there are also ongoing opportunities for people to ask for changes and bus stops and routes, et cetera. So that applies to everybody as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody have any other comments or questions about the survey? I think it's an ongoing effort, Mick and Ben, to gather information and to respond to people, whether it's in a large formal survey like this or just one-on-one as you're gathering feedback from people. So I think that's a continuing effort, and we'll look forward to hearing more about that in the future. And it sounds like people were interested in any of that mapping that you might eventually do, Ben. So that may be something that could come back to TC at some point in the future. Anybody have anything else? Okay, thanks so much, Ben, for coming.
Yep. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too. Next, we have Metro Transit fare collection procedures. Brian.
Hi, everybody. You able to see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. So, evening, everybody. My name is Brian Mulrooney. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Metro Transit. The agenda item is titled Fare Collection Procedure Updates. Has a lot less to do with fare per se, has a lot more to do with just some of the safety and security that surrounds fare, as kind of fare has been the leading cause of operator assaults and safety concerns throughout our system. So most of what I'm going to be talking about today is kind of what we've been doing collaboratively with Metro staff and some of our Teamster partners to work on some of these issues internally and with some of our external group. This is more of a progress report from what I presented to TC back in April. So, okay, so the reason that we kind of started diving into the fare and safety security issues that we were having was because of a significant spike of physical assaults that we had in Q1 of 2025. We had 5 physical assaults in Q1 of 2025. I'm happy to say that we've had 0 physical assaults in Q2 or Q3 thus far, which has been excellent. It's too early to say if some of the efforts that we've done caused that, but hopefully this trend continues. We do often see operator assaults. Go.
Your screen didn't move, Ryan. Did you want
Which one
it
are you
to move?
seeing?
The cover slide, Metro Transit Safety and Security Updates. There you go. There you go. Okay.
Wrong screen.
Yep. We've got it now. Whoop.
Here. Let me fix it.
Okay.
All right, this will have to work.
Okay.
So are you able
Yes,
to
we
see this
see
now?
we see the background slide now.
Excellent. Okay, so the spike occurred back in Q1 as a response to that and some of the higher profile assaults that we had. We developed an internal and an interagency working group that addressed and recommended mitigations for some of the assaults that we were having during that time. Most of it was surrounding operator safety, but this also kind of tangentially affected customer safety as well. So the 2 groups that we formed was an internal assault protocol review team, which is now part of the Teamsters contract. This team reviews video footage and documentation from every single assault that we have, whether it is a physical assault or a non-physical assault, which I'll talk more here in a second. In reviewing these assaults, we work as a collective group to determine what was the cause of the assault. Was there any sort of deviation in procedure from the operator? Was there any deviation in procedure from the supervisor in the incident? And essentially recommending mitigations to prevent assaults like this in the future. And we do this for every single, like I said, physical or non-physical assault with this review team that is 3 Metro staff and 3 Teamster representatives. As part of that, as part of these mitigations, we provide a risk rating to the assault before the mitigation is recommended, and then a risk rating after that mitigation is implemented in theory. So a lot of these assaults, for example, a mitigation would be the installation of an operator barrier in some of our older buses, or the requirement for increased de-escalation training for the operator, or things like that. What's been nice is in every assault case that we have, or every incident that we have, the mitigations that we recommend do result in a lower risk rating. It's now just up to us to actually implement those mitigations. So some of the mitigations that we have implemented are a required de-escalation training for all of our operators, which we are still going through right now. And additionally, we are currently in the process of procuring operator barriers for the rest of our fleet. So our 60-foot battery electric buses do have operator barriers already in them. We're looking to retrofit the rest of the fleet with these as well. Additionally, we had the interagency safety and security team, which is a team made up of Teamster representatives, Metro staff, representatives from the mayor's office, and a representative from Madison Police. This group kind of takes together some of the policies and procedures that we have surrounding our assaults, and we recommend best practices on how to, most closely align our procedures with police procedures so that we are documenting everything as thoroughly as we possibly can, and kind of bridging the gap between what happens on the bus regarding the operator and what happens to that passenger, to make sure that the operator feels safe if that passenger is removed, and if we're able to enforce an exclusion of that passenger, how that works, and kind of bringing in all of the questions that operators have from our Teamster rep and providing some sort of context behind everything that they have that they're facing. So that's kind of the background of these groups. Can you see this next slide, the impact slide?
Yes.
Great. The impact of these two groups and kind of, all the situations that spurred this has been overwhelmingly positive, especially in the operator ranks. The awareness surrounding assaults has increased significantly with the operators and our supervisors and all of our frontline staff, especially when operators are seeing the mitigations that we are recommending being implemented, like our de-escalation trainings and soon to be our operator barriers. We also changed, not necessarily changed, but reinforced some of our fare enforcement policy, in that an operator is not supposed to be enforcing the fare policy should a challenge go beyond just a verbal reminder to the customer. That when that situation is escalated, that's when we typically see tensions rise between operators and customers. So the operator is intended to, or is directed to give a verbal challenge to the situation and then leave it there, contact dispatch if something escalates, and we can follow up on the back end by pulling video, identifying that customer, should they be a problem customer in the future, and work with our police partners to identify and talk with those individuals to see what's going on and kind of deal with the situation in a less high stakes environment than a moving bus. Like I said before, we had a pretty significant decrease in physical operator assaults quarter over quarter. We've been increasing our collaboration with MPD. We have them focusing on some of our more some of our stops that are having some more passenger disturbance issues. And we've also revised our own definitions of what a physical assault is, what a non-physical assault is, and what a passenger disturbance is. And these are the three items that ended up being put into the Teamsters contract that was approved by City Council yesterday. Here are the three kind of definitions that we are going to be starting to operate under when it comes to reporting and doing our procedures around assaults. How we've done things in the past is any kind of passenger disturbance on a bus, whether it be directed at a customer or just a general passenger disturbance, those have always been reported as a non-physical or a verbal assault, even if it did not, even if it wasn't necessarily directed at the operator. We're breaking those two out now so that a non-physical assault is something that is directed directly to the operator, while a passenger disturbance is more of a general disruptive behavior that does impede service and makes the transit bus a bit of a uncomfortable place to be, but it's not necessarily classified as an assault. So with that, we'll hopefully have some good data probably the next time I report to you all in about a quarter when we talk about some of the progress of the numbers that we have here. But the non-physical assaults and passenger disturbances will be broken up so that the non-physical assaults will actually will result in a lower number of non-physical assaults being reported. But the passenger disturbance is still being reported, just not under the category as non-physical assaults. With all of the assault data that we have and passenger disturbance data that we have, we are working closely with police to kind of deploy them where we've seen particular issues. We actually have them riding on buses between some stops and just showing a presence on some of our buses, which has been received really well by operators and some of the public as well. We also are able to deploy, we have a much smaller supervisor staff, but we're able to deploy some of our supervisor resources as we are seeing specific complaints come in about passenger behaviors. There was a public comment regarding some kind of foul language, passenger behavior on a bus that was experienced recently. With that particular complaint, I'll follow up with a complainant to actually get a supervisor on that specific bus. But all of these issues that do come in, they are recorded and addressed as quickly as we're able to. Sometimes we're not able to have a supervisor on a bus before a passenger disturbance happens. That's just kind of the nature of public transit when we have, close to 175 buses on the road. But we are able to respond when we do hear about things and try and get some sort of face-to-face presence with individuals who are causing passenger disturbances to see what's going on, get them resources that they need to, either get them access to mental health resources or whoever else we're able to get them paired up with. So that's all I've got on this. Is there any questions I can answer right away?
Thanks so much, Brian. Alder Martinez Rutherford, go ahead.
Yeah, Brian, you mentioned that you were retrofitting the driver shields. Do you know what the timeline looks like for that?
Yeah, so timeline for that is we're hopefully going to be going out to bid for that because it'll be a pretty large project within, hopefully by the end of the year. Most of that will be able to be done over the summer with ideally a kind of full implementation by the start of the school year 2026.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alder. Alder O'Brien, go ahead.
Alder Martinez Rutherford, you stole my first question there, so I'd meld. Question about signage on the buses. I know that there had been some conversation about that happening. Has that been fully implemented across all buses? And where is that at?
It has, yes. So all of our buses do now have signage by the operator and on our 60-foot buses toward the back of the bus as well that essentially says, think before you act. An assault against a transit operator is a whatever level felony it is. So we have that posted there. We also put on tap to pay reminders toward the rear of our 60-foot buses so that there is something that we can point to that says it reminds you directly here to remember to pay. And we're doing some social media campaigns kind of surrounding our fare media, how to use it. And now with kind of the increased access to different types of fare media, that's been extremely helpful.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Other comments or questions? Well, thanks very much, Brian. Really appreciate all the work that's been done on this. And, it looks like it's really come a long way and been very well accepted by the drivers and appreciated. And, I think it's been so evident that there were issues and some great strategies have been put in place to address them. So,
yeah, and I think a lot of the credit would absolutely go to some of our Teamster partners to help bring the people who are involved in the day-to-day together to really get a good eye on it and communicate what it is that we're doing to the frontline employees or doing for the frontline employees. That's been, without them, this would not be nearly as successful as it is right now.
Yeah, what a great cooperative effort. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Thanks so much for coming in and bringing this update to us tonight. Thanks. Next, we have review of the capital and operating budgets for the Department of Transportation. Christoph, are you going to start off or who's going to start off tonight?
This is Liz Callan. I can also speak on this item if that's all right with you, Christoph.
Yes.
Go ahead. Thanks, Liz. Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. So we have, I I don't have a formal presentation, but I was just going to specifically speak on the capital budget request and kind of give a quick overview of that. And then our operating budget is really a continuation budget. So really no significant changes of any kind in that, but I certainly can answer questions if there are any. But I'll start with the operating budget. So we have requested an additional 3.9 million in TIF supported borrowing for 2026, which is related to reallocating money from the Perry Street overpass and 1.4 million from TID 42, which was originally part of the Park Street reconstruction to support the BRT. So not new TIF funding, but a reallocation of TIF funding to support that project. Again, just to give us more flexibility for funding that project. While there is some uncertainty with the federal funding, we don't have any reason to change course at this time. We have regular meetings with FTA, and we've been getting signals to continue moving forward with that as we had originally planned to do so. And then we also have some information in there about the Hepker Road interchange, which is anticipated for construction in 2030. So that's an out year, a couple of different out year items for that. That is kind of the big notable changes from 2025, but I certainly can answer any specific questions that folks may have.
And that's just specifically for the Department of Transportation. Okay.
Correct. And I know that Ying and Stephanie are both here to talk about parking and TE. And I know there are folks here from Metro to talk about that budget as well.
Okay.
So that's just our kind of little Department of Transportation budget.
Great. Thanks. So anybody have any questions for Liz before we move on to somebody else? Okay, thanks for that update. Who wants to go next? Steph, you want to go?
Okay, go ahead, Stephanie. Go ahead.
Okay. I apologize if you hear any yelling. My family is watching the Brewer game and it's not going well. So hopefully you don't hear them. All right. So for the parking division for our capital budget, we have 3 items this year. We have money that we are setting aside for the Block 88 commercial space renovations. That's the old bike center by the Wilson Street Garage. We have been discussing for several years now what to do with that location. So one option was to lease it out as a commercial space. So we have set money aside for that. And then we have several equipment and infrastructure upgrades to our garages. So there was money set aside in the 26 budget for that. That's about a little over $900,000. And then our standard vehicle replacement plan, which we have every year. Do you want me to go on to the operating, or should we see if anyone has questions about the capital?
Yeah, why don't you do the operating, then we'll have questions on both.
Okay, sounds good. So for our operating budget, it is a cost to continue budget. We continue to analyze our parking rates and fees, determining any necessary changes. We recently hired a new data analytics manager, which has really been a great addition to the parking division. And we're really able to dive into our data a little better. So we're using that to look at, our costs versus revenue. And as an enterprise agency, it's very important that our revenue covers our costs. So we have that. We also, are always looking with like the Lake Street Garage, additional private-public partnerships and relationships, along with the Block 88 location. And then we are working on the curb management plan. The grant that we received, we need funding for the local match, which will come out of the parking division's budget. Just using our data to streamline our services, look for technology improvements, areas that we can make it better for people to come park. We've seen the other adjustment we have is we've seen about a 4% increase per year since 2024 for our revenue. So we did include that in our 2026 budget. And those are my updates.
Thanks, Stephanie. Comments or questions for Stephanie on parking budgets? Alder Okovich.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Stephanie. When you had talked at DCC about the curb demand management program, I think there was talk of piloting some new payment technologies. Would that be paid through for the grant and through the program? Am I misremembering?
We are testing out some new payment systems, some new equipment. That's through our current vendor. So that's just part of our on-street meter system.
Okay, so that all falls under the equipment portion of the capital budget? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Alder. Other comments or questions for Stephanie? We're just at the beginning of the curb management, right, Stephanie?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a ways to go on that. Yeah. Any other comments or questions on parking? Okay, Yang, did you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. So traffic insurance budget is a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to share my screen and use some visual. But I'm going to describe them clearly. But basically, it's the same documents provided through the link that's attached in Register. But before I get started, I want to kind of really quickly explain where we are in the city's budget process so that you can maybe understand what I'm talking about a little bit better. So for the capital budget, the mayor released her executive budget, and all the agencies also presented the budget at the finance committee, and the finance committee actually made some amendments to the mayor's executive budget. There was not a whole lot of amendments, but there were some. One of them actually impacted traffic engineering. So I do want to mention that. What I'm showing, the documents we have is for the executive budget, but I'm going to point out, where the amendments are. For operating budget, it's a little bit behind right now. So the mayor's executive budget, which is released by the finance department yesterday. So that's now available online. So we haven't gone to the finance committee yet, but that was scheduled in a couple of weeks or so. And that goes through the amendment process at finance committee. And then both budget will head to the common council for amendment and the final adoption in November. With that said, can you see my screen? Hopefully,
yes.
The document. Okay, great. Should I blow up a little bit bigger, or this looks good?
I can see it. Is anybody have any issues with what they're seeing? I'm not seeing any hands, Yang.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, thank you for letting me know. So I'll start with capital budget. So for the capital budget, for traffic engineering, our total amount on the executive budget is about $3.1 million. However, we did receive a budget amendment from 3 orders at the finance committee. giving us about $850,000 more funds from TIF funding. So that's tax incremental financing from TIF 48 to install street lighting along the southwest commuter path, and also do the signal improvements at West Washington Avenue crossing, as you already approved. So that was built in. So our total amount for 2026 would be about $4 billion. So that's spread over 4 different programs: public safety radio system, Safe Streets Medicine. You guys created, and we have a lot of success, with that. On that, I want to quickly, give you a quick summary. You already approved about 220 projects since the program was formed. And so far, we have delivered about 140 of them. So there are another 80 approved projects that are in different stages of the delivery process. Some are design, some are trying to find the contractors, some are doing some finishing touches. So that's where we are. So this will find additional hopefully many projects for 2026. And another program we have is streetlight installation program, a pretty significant one as well, that takes care of all the lighting in the city, and also traffic safety infrastructure. That's by far the smartest program that we have, but exists for a reason. So it's different from Safe Streets Medicine. The design of that program is for us to have emergency funds to do safety-related things. So in the past years, we use that for example, for street lighting improvements in downtown areas when there are gunshot problems. We have used that as a local match for federal grant applications, and we have used that to improve signing as well. So basically, it's reserved for it's responding to safety issues. And the final program is a traffic signal installation. So that's install the new traffic signals, and also upgrading the signals. For example, adding APS, accessible pedestrian signals. So that's the 5 major programs that we have. And also I want to compare this year's CI capital improvement program, CIP. That's the 5-year plan looking to the future, comparing what we have right now for 2026 with what was adopted back in 2025. You can see that actually, for 2026 to 2028, we are requiring less than actually was adopted in the 2025 version. So you might have a question on that, what's happening there? That's actually because we in 2025, we initially had some federal grants spread over the next few years, from 2026 to 2028. However, though, because of the uncertainty of the federal funding earlier this year, we did a budget amendment to move all those funds back to 2025. And the staff are finding ways to expedite spending those funds, so we can spend them before we potentially lose it. So we moved a few $1 million from those 3 years in 2025. And I'm happy to report that we're making really good progress on spending those funds. I think for example, our citywide streetlight LED conversion program. We're converting 6,000 streetlights to LED through this program. Initially, we think it was going to be done by 2028, but we're able to finish that in 2025. By staffing working overtime and also by working with a contractor, adding more additional teams to complete this work. It actually is already completely done. So all the streetlights maintained by the city are now LED, except the ones as are decorative. So those are still not LED because the LED version is pretty hard to find to match those specific styles. But we'll keep working on them. So far, 88% of the lights city maintains are now LED. So that's almost 8,500 streetlights out there, out of the 9,500 of them. 9,500, yeah. Again, those remaining 1,000 lights are decorative ones that we'll keep working on. We actually have some spare lights left from the federal funding, and we're working with the utility companies, and we go in to typically, they do the replacement for us. In this case, we're trying to do some of those since we have extra lights left from the federal funding the projects. So that's kind of explains why you see less funds over there. But I also want to mention that even though this year we're showing that we're going to deliver $4 million projects by this year, I mean 2026. But we're actually still working on a lot of projects funded by other previous years' budget, mostly federal grants. For example, a lot of Safe Streets Madison, Safe Streets for All federal grants that we got quite a few $1 million approved before. So now we're still working on deliver for those projects in the next few years. The same thing for the carbon reduction programs. So actually, since 2019, our capital budget increased sometimes almost tenfold, actually more than tenfold. So typically before 2019, our budget was at every year about $1.6 million level. Last year in 2020, I should say this year, 2025, we're delivering actually $16 million of projects, compared to $1.6 million in 2019. That's now the highest. The highest actually in recent years was in 2023. Our capital budget was at $26 million. The reason I want to point out that is our staff capacity is definitely being challenged. For deliver a lot of more projects with a little bit more staff. We got a little bit more staff, but only at a couple staff since that. So staff has been working really hard on that, deliver a lot of more projects. So I really appreciate their hard work. And I want to thank the commission as well, as we have been bringing a lot of projects to you, for guidance. Really bring adding your workload. So thank you for that. I also want to quickly mention, a couple of major changes that's going on. So the first one is regarding our camera lifecycle management program. You saw that in our budget for the last few years. This year, we removed it. The reason is that when the program was designed a few years ago, we have a portion of it in traffic engineering, for traffic cameras. For the rest of the city cameras, it was in IT's budget. We're basically doing the same thing. So after correlating with IT staff, we decided to move our portion all to IT. So only one department needs to manage it. Yeah, but when we need it, when we need to use it, we'll charge that account. A second change is a public safety radio system. So we our current agreement with the vendor expires at the end of the next year. So we anticipate some increased cost, by talking to them. So we added, some increase over there, specifically for 2027. That's the year that we need to enter a new cycle for contracts. We anticipate we'll need to do some system upgrades. So we request about $1 million more for that year. Another major change that you may notice is the Safe Streets Medicine program. That's I know that's near and dear to your heart, and it's near and dear to our hearts as well. Again, we had a lot of success with the program. That budget was decreased by $250,000. So that was mainly because the city moved some funds from TIF. City give us some TIF funds, and that was included in the 2025 budget to do some of the bike pass projects. So that was so they accounted for that, and also as I mentioned, we're delivering a lot of federal funding projects. We really don't have the staff capacity to deliver more city funded projects. So that's the big change on that. Finally, I already mentioned this. For our traffic signal installation program, we moved about $3 million from the future years to 2025. So that was kind of reflected on the 2026 CIP as well. If you look at the documents, you can see more details about each program. Lots of different numbers. I'm not going to cover those, as it was going to take quite a bit of time. I'm going to switch to the operating budget, which is going to be much more brief. As the same for DOT, as Liz said, it's mostly a cost per continue budget for us as well. But that's actually a pretty good thing compared to the last few years when we have to figure out cuts because of budget challenges. So the referendum that the city passed last year really helped us to maintain the level of service we provide. I'm going to skip this. I'm going to show you one major figure here. So this chart shows the total amount of operating budget for 2026, which is at $12.2 million, which supports about 150 staff members in traffic engineering. So some are permanent staff members, some are hourly seasonal employees, such as our crossing guard team. We offer 8 major services for our residents and visitors. And you can see a breakdown of the funding allocation across those different services: street lighting, signing, traffic signals, planning and data support, bicycle and pedestrian services, radio communications, pavement markings, and fiber communication. That's a fiber network. So those kind of, you can see a breakdown over there, with street lighting is the biggest one, and the fiber network is by far the smallest component of what we do. On that, actually, because I think that's actually not very scientific, because we share same staff for street lighting, traffic signals, along with fiber. And another thing I want to mention is that the crossing guard program is built within the bicycle and the pedestrian services. A couple of so there's not major changes, but a couple of small change. One is that we reduced our salary a little bit based on the, the current vacancy rates and expected vacancy rates. Another change is that for the fiber network, we anticipate increased income compared to previous year. So we made some adjustments over there as well. So that's kind of the major, not the major changes, but some of the smaller changes compared to the previous years. So that's all I have, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Yang. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Yang? Okay, I'm seeing
All right,
no hands.
I'll stop sharing my screen, and thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for the information. Brian, are you doing Metro Transit?
Sure. Eric built most of ours, Eric Knapp, our interim general manager. But I can speak to part of our capital improvement capital improvement plan. Most of the capital improvements, really all of them, there's only 3 accounts in there, which is equipment and facility systems, buses and bus charging equipment, and then our speed and reliability projects. Those have all just been increased with the general cost to continue. So we do intend on having some sort of bus purchase at some point in 2026. The speed and reliability projects are focused on improving some of the immediate access into some of our stops. So building better bus stops, providing money for either transit signal priority or whatever it might be to make a bus route safer, more efficient, and more ready to go. And then we actually have some monies from previous years that we're working on spending right now with some improvements on the D line, I believe, here coming soon. So more updates on that. We also did make sure to rename the account that had to do with bus purchases to make sure that it allows for charging infrastructure purchases. Because what we're noticing right now is our kind of choke point is the lack of available chargers to our battery electric buses. So by actually adding in more chargers, that makes more buses available to us to use in a more reliable and consistent manner rather than having to switch them out. So that's a majority of what the capital budget is for us. Most of our operating budget is obviously wages for Metro. We had quite a big increase in unplanned overtime wages this year, primarily due to some, unexpected costs associated with running out to a second facility and having more staff charges to jockey kind of vehicles back and forth from the facility out at Hanson. Now that we have better control over that, and we're getting back to a really well-staffed level, we expect those charges to go down. But most of the operating, I would leave to Eric in the finance committee meetings on Monday. But other than that, that's all I know or have.
Yeah, doesn't look like we have Eric here tonight. Do we? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Comments or questions on the Metro budget? Harold?
Yeah, and you may not be able to answer those given the conversation that we just had. I read some analyses that the support that comes from the general fund for the operating budget of Metro has increased by, I think, 6.5 million or something. And so the proportion of Metro's operating budget that comes out of general funds versus other sources of revenue like state, federal support, fares, keeps going up. And so I'm wondering, okay, it seems like we were able to do cost to continue without any cuts to service this year. Of course, it does make me wonder about the future. And also, nationally, we're seeing other transit agencies that yeah, Milwaukee is planning on pretty strong cuts, Philadelphia, Chicago. And so, yeah, I'm curious what the financial outlook for Metro is in the near and midterm for the operating budget.
Yeah, and a lot of that, well, sorry, would I speak over something? Chris, I was just going to say a lot of that does come from kind of the expiration of a lot of those federal COVID dollars that we did use pretty significantly for our operating budget in years past. So those being gone, and the large capital budget associated with the East-West BRT project, with that running out, and a lot of our staff time being able to be charged to that, because that was one of the most kind of hours heavy project that we had. I would expect that that general fund subsidy to increase with that, but with the intent to continue to staff up and build up programs to keep employees as long as we possibly can, and make Metro as good of a place to work so that we can keep some of our young employees and continue to reduce that overtime rate in general.
No, I think I want to underline that COVID point. What you're seeing here is very much an artifact of the fact that we went for a couple of years with federal operating funds due to COVID that we were able to use to support a good chunk of the operations, and those have now expired. Now that they've expired, that trend does not necessarily continue. Obviously, we have no idea what Congress and the president are going to do, but there are no remaining of those funds in the budget. So we're not looking at another step like this coming up. The other thing that's also worth noting is obviously that in the time since COVID, we've been 5 years in now, there's been a considerable amount of inflation, which obviously impacts the overall operating budgets if you look further back historically. So we're sort of seeing the budget reset at the end of that, and we're very fortunate that the City of Madison is capable of picking that up, unlike some cities, as you mentioned, that in some counties and some transit agencies, which haven't had the resources to do that, and instead have had to do massive service cuts. But I do think this is, from everything we can tell, this is putting us in a place where future continues to look like this, not a continued trajectory of massive increases in the general funds here.
Yeah.
So I think this budget is very much a preview of what the next couple of years will look like, not like a point on an upwards curve.
And one of the biggest increases in general inflationary pressures that we've seen is in some of our paratransit costs. And the partners that we use for that, just the cost to run that service has increased pretty considerably. But we also run an exceptional paratransit service throughout almost the entire county at this point with how far our service has spread. So we would expect that to increase, but part of what we are working on, at least in paratransit, is working with some of our Dane County providers to provide travel training and get more people who are eligible for paratransit, but may also see fixed route bus as a viable opportunity to kind of start shifting some of that travel mode to fixed route bus, just because of the expenses associated with that. It's a pretty difficult task to kind of work with that, but it's a worthwhile endeavor for independence and some more use of the existing system that we have.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very helpful and makes me somewhat optimistic, I guess, for the future. Just one related question. How have fare revenues developed over the past couple of years? I know there's always that lag, given that a lot of the fare revenue comes through your big partners, and so you average out the ridership. But I know ridership has gone up, so I guess eventually fare revenue will also go up.
Yeah, so you're kind of referencing how our fare revenue is based on a rolling average of ridership with our partners. In particular, UW is one of our biggest ones. We're still in kind of the the last bit of COVID low ridership years with that formula fund. So we do expect not for 2026, but for 2027 for that to increase pretty considerably. We're still, honoring the letter of that contract with how we've formulated that, obviously. So we do expect that to increase, not for the 26 budget, but for the 27.
And how are the agreements with other regional partners structured for, like you said, costs go up and, Verona chipping in, do those agreements give you a mechanism for track those cost increases?
Yes, there's a whole bunch of different kind of formulaic mechanisms in those contracts that affect what our partner agencies pay, and it's based on the service miles in their area and just a whole bunch of different other factors. So, and partially due to we try and get them as predictable of a budget as possible so that they can go back to their councils and give them something that's within reason. So those, I think, have less of a margin of error than we do with some of our fair partners with UW.
Thank you very much. That's all I had.
Thanks, Harold. Other comments or questions on Metro's budget? Okay, well, we really appreciate you coming and talking with us about it, although I realize might be a little premature on the operating budget side. So if there's anything that you wish to come back and talk with us about again, we can certainly put that on the agenda for the future. Any last comments or questions about the budget? We appreciate all the work. It's crazy lot of work, I know. And always tough. Always tough. Okay, thanks so much. Next we have crossover reports from any other boards, committees, or commissions. Anybody have anything to report tonight? Harold?
Well, I'm fresh from the BPW meeting that happened just today. So the BPW approved the Sycamore and related area reconstruction that we had on the agenda, I think at the last meeting, where there were some questions about should there be sidewalks on one side or both sides? And BPW approved that basically as in the spirit that TC had approved the general geometry as well. So that's all that was on there.
Thanks, Harold. Other reports from other BCCs. And we sure appreciate that people not only spend time on TC, but on other boards, committees, and commissions as well. So I know it's a huge time commitment. Anybody have anything else? Okay. In terms of general announcements, just a reminder that Jamie Acton, the new general manager for Metro, her first day will be on October 13th. So we'll look forward to seeing her at TC at some point in the future. And that's really all that I had. In terms of future agenda items, we have 3 referrals from the Common Council. One of them related to Transportation Alternatives Program, which I think Harold you'd been asking about. So we'll see that at the next meeting on October 22nd. And a review of Metro Transit Safety Plan. We have some Metro Transit bus updates, Safe Streets Madison. We have a Public Works project on Pontiac, Boston, Nokomis, and Rosewood reconstruction. That will be coming, and potentially an update on curb management. And then moving on into November, that's when we may see Midvale Boulevard come back to us, and some other topics like parking garage rates, towing charge, forfeiture fees, the results of the test removal of the peak hour travel lanes on Williamson Street, the annual crash facts report, quarterly traffic safety report, and potentially updates on passenger rail. So a lot, and we have more coming further into November and into December as well. So anybody have any other, and we're certainly continue to track the other items that we have on the list from TC members that they would like to hear about. Any other items? And folks have been emailing me outside of TC as well, which I interact with them and then we add them onto our list too. So anybody have anything else tonight? Okay, then we need a motion to adjourn. Whose turn? Who wants to take the motion? Harold.
Come on, people, you could be faster than me. Motion to adjourn.
Okay, there's a motion by Harold Pepe.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second, and I'm going to assume a unanimous consent vote. Seeing as how nobody has ever voted against adjourning in the past. So thanks everybody for another great meeting, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks.